Welcome ladies and gentlemen, Tactical Lich here, and today we have a game sent in by Lenorm. This was played on Cool Umbrella's Friday tournament 2 weeks ago, but unfortunately I didn't get to cast it in time because it was sent in late. Still, we'll be doing a separate video for this game, with Lenorm here playing as the Dark Elves, a very meta faction, and against another very meta faction, Slaanesh. Now, for the Dark Elf army here, we have a front line of Hellebronai, Bleak Souls mixed in with Sisters of Slaughter. Quite an interesting pick. Not exactly the most popular Dark Elf unit, but we'll see what they can do in this matchup with their insane melee defense of 58. Of course, their lack of armor makes them quite fragile, but they do have some physical resistance to mitigate it. Now, for the mobility, for the Dark Elves, very staple stuff here. The Cheeserunner chariots, 2 of them in fact supported by Cold One Dread Knights, 2 Cold One Dread Knights, and 2 Dark Riders with shields. In the skies leading the army, a very meta pick as well, the Malekith Seraphon combo with a bunch of spells including Soul Stealer, actually only Soul Stealer, and the ability Gaze of Malice. Also Breath Attack, typical stuff as you would expect from Malekith. Now for the Slaanesh army, their leadership pick is also very meta with Sigvald the Magnificent with his full gear load out. Being fully equipped, he should be a powerful duelist. Behind him, we have a Chaos Sorcerer of Slaanesh with Phantasmagoria for that area of effect controlling, and then Pavane of Slaanesh for the rampaging effect and direct damage, as well as a Lash of Slaanesh. For the infantry wise, we have a whole lot of Devoted Marauders of Slaanesh with their anti-infantry bonus, great against the light armored infantry of the Dark Elves. And at the back, we have the staple mobility, the Hellstriders of Slaanesh. And then there is a rather niche pick for the Slaanesh army, the Fiends of Slaanesh. Having great speed, armor piercing, and that soporific must to debuff enemy units, there are quite some formidable fighters. And the rest of the army is basically more Hellstriders on the other side of the battlefield, one of them the Hellscourge variant. And that's basically it for the army builds. Now let's get this show on the road. With the Dark Elves able to kite with their Cheeserunners, the Slaanesh will have no choice but to charge forward with their infantry line. Of course, their infantry line do have a bit of advantage with their anti-infantry bonus of 7, so that is plus 7 weapon strength and plus 7 melee attack against infantry units. Great against all these lightly armored Dark Elf forces, especially against Sisters of Slaughter with only 5 armor. They rely on their melee defense to counteract enemy attacks, and with the Marauders able to bridge that gap with that bonus versus infantry, they're able to do some quite nasty damage on the charge, combined with a Lash of Slaanesh. At the back here, Malekith trying to dive down, do some nice damage to the Chaos Sorcerer, but unfortunately with the Fiends nearby, he was threatened by all those melee attack debuffs and also armor piercing that can pin him down. On the other parts of the battlefield, the other Bleak Swords and whatnot are also being ravaged by the Slaanesh Marauders. The Fiend's magic attacks bypass the physical resistance, and also soporific must lower their melee defenses as well. Now on the flanks here, there is a Cold One Dread Knight trying to charge the Hellstriders, but a nice bait and switch here, pulling back one Hellstrider using another Hellstrider to charge in, catching the Cold One Dread Knights on the charge, and then charge back in a second Hellstrider in there. Especially this is a flank charge, maximizing the charge impact damage. Over here, a similar thing happened, pulling back one unit of Hellstriders, charging in another one, but this time the charge isn't as good because they are going for the frontal engagement against this Dread Knight and did not get that devastating charge bonus. Now back to the front line, the Slaanesh forces are almost done with wiping out the Dark Elf infantry. Even with Murderous Prowess giving them a bit of damage boost, the Bleak Swords are on their last legs. The Sisters actually managed to beat back some of these Devoted Marauders, but they're way more expensive than the Marauder infantry, so that is not exactly a worthy engagement, especially with Prince Sigvald still being so healthy. Now at the back, the Cheeserunners are not having a good time as most of the Dark Elf mobility are pinned down by the Slaanesh forces. The Slaanesh Light Cavalry were able to flood in, overwhelming the remaining Dark Riders and just catching the Scourgerunner chariots, preventing them from firing safely. The Hellebronai was able to push off some of that Slaanesh mobility, but there's so many units around here, they can't catch everyone, and the Scourgerunners with only 84 speed will not be able to outrun the Hellstriders who have 100. Even the slower fiends still have 95 speed to catch up with the Cheeserunners and pressure them away with their armor-piercing attacks. Now over here, the Dread Knights actually managed to tank out against the Hellstriders pretty darn well due to their high armor and decent melee stats at 44 melee defense, and beat back quite a bit of this Slaanesh mobility. On the flanks here, Dark Riders being charged by the Hellstriders, they won't be surviving for long. Actually, that might be a frontal charge on both ends, but nonetheless, both units are on the verge of routing, but with some more Dark Riders coming in, the Slaanesh forces might be the one breaking first. While the Cheeserunners are still running, but one of them being caught by the Fiends of Slaanesh, actually managing to cut down 2 models of these skirmishing chariots, while the second unit will be continuously chased by the Hellstriders, but they might want to keep chasing as the Cheeserunners might recover their leadership and return anytime, and as we said that, they successfully did so. And they will be shooting at the Fiends over here using their anti-large bonus to maximum effect. Unfortunately for them though, the trees are in the way, blocking quite a few shots, but these are some Cheeserunners that are still running. They are threatened by Hellstriders, but they are still firing away. As for the infantry situation, the Dark Elf are running out of bodies for sure. Hellbrunni being hit by a soporific musk from the Fiends of Slaanesh and then charged by Hellstriders. They won't be holding for long either. There are some Slaanesh units scattered all over the battlefield, but with Malekith so healthy, they want to huddle up with the remaining stronghold of their forces. Their current leadership is too low from all the battle attrition and will be routed with a single charge from Malekith. Of course, the terror on Seraphon would not be affecting them, since all Slaanesh units either have immune to psychology or simply don't rout because they are demonic units. Now, Hellstriders with Hell Scourges charging into the Dread Knights, hoping to crush them with that numbers advantage, but unfortunately for them, this time quality trumps quantity. And one unit will be shattered, the other will follow suit soon, as they cannot punch through the 120 armor of these Cold One Dread Knights. The Dread Knights held their ground, conserving more forces for the Dark Elves. The rest of the Slaanesh army are rushing over to reinforce, but it might be too little too late. There are more and more Hellstriders just running in, but the Dread Knights are now done with most of these previous Hellstriders, went in for a charge against the Hellstriders and a beautiful breath attack from Malekith and Seraphon there, destroying 1/4 of a unit of this Hellstriders of Slaanesh, saving the Cold Dread Knights from an immediate rout. Of course, there are more and more Slaanesh forces rushing in, so the Cold Dread Knights will still be routed soon, but now there are more time for the other Dark Elf units to proceed with their maneuvers. While the Slaanesh forces are busy blobbing, Cheeserunners and Malekith routed off some of the Hellstriders. The Fiends come in for a charge, but Malekith, still being so healthy, will not be going down easily, while the Cheeserunners are just kind of blocking the hits for Malekith. This allows the Witch King to pull out of the engagement and fly back into the skies, and at the same time the Dark Elves are receiving some kind of fire support. The regrouped Cheeserunners are just sitting back, dispensing their ammo, hoping to recover as much value as possible. Now finally, the Slaanesh forces are turning their attention over and sending in reinforcements. Malekith dropping in, hoping to save the Cheeserunners from all the Slaanesh mobility, but these Fiends might be dumped in quite prematurely as they manage to pin down Malekith, but is now shot point blank by the Cheeserunners. One of them even completely faded away. On the far side, a Cheeserunner ran out of ammo being chased by Hellstriders, and then there are still some Sisters of Slaughter remaining in the fight with 22 leadership, not much, but they are still holding and fighting as they do have some impressive base value of leadership at 82. They will be holding to quite a last few handful of women. Now on the far side here, the Hellstriders managed to rout off the Cheeserunners, but this is a mistake. It's nice to chase off enemy units, but this also isolates them from their main army, allowing Malekith to jump in and rout them with a bit of Dread Knight support, leaving only Sigvald the Magnificent and his Marauder lackeys, which is further weakened by a menacing gaze of Malice. Now let us fast forward here as Malekith tries to chase away the Hellstrider with the help of some Cold Dread Knight, and then the Cheeserunner charges in a breath attack, eliminating some of these devoted Marauders and also routing them with a bit of a charge from Malekith. The presence of such a strong unit nearby is not great for the Slaanesh. Malekith dived down on Sigvald, hoping to destroy him with that charge attack, and also a Soul Stealer, but that was probably a miscast as the spell did not cover Sigvald himself. And at this point, Malekith will be psycho charging a bit as he was trying to use the Dread Knights to pin in Sigvald, fulfilling the attacking rule so that Malekith could have just pulled back and charged in again, but Sigvald being Sigvald just slams those Dread Knights to dust, though Malekith was able to retreat from the engagement and wait for Sigvald's buffs to wear off. Then drops back in, slaps Sigvald with that massive charge bonus and armor-piercing weapon strength. The Voter Marauders are running in, hoping to support their lord, but Sigvald is not having a good time here. Without any defense buffs, he can only rely on his healing for protection, which is never gonna be enough in front of a mighty dragon. Sigvald is doing some decent damage to Malekith, but Malekith still has some tricks up his sleeve. Other than the heavy armor, he also is a magic caster. If we fast forward a bit, we can see that Malekith drops in a Soul Stealer, draining the hit points of all of these remaining Slaanesh units. Not only that, but also healing Malekith, pulling the balance of power more and more in favor of the Dark Elf forces. With only 3 units left on the battlefield, one of them Malekith. With that, the Dark Elf army was able to crush the Slaanesh forces in terms of balance of power, securing their victory. Now for a quick rundown for battle performances, the Dark Elves played by Lenorm would have a decent performance in one of the Dread Knights. After all, they did tank out a lot of attacks from the Hellstriders. Hellstriders, despite their cost-efficient anti-large, they do struggle against heavily armored cavalry, so the Cold One Dread Knights with their melee stats and armor was able to punch back pretty effectively, although the other one being overwhelmed at the beginning was not able to recover their own value. As for the Cheeserunners, the Slaanesh mobility was able to threaten them pretty effectively, using the faster Hellstriders to catch up with them, or at least slow their retreat so that the Fiends of Slaanesh can catch up, and using their armor piercing to punch through the Cheeserunners' defenses to eliminate their HP and models. But the thing is, they are still scooting and shooting the whole time, so the cavalry and monsters of the Slaanesh forces still took a significant damage through combat attrition and also just the skirmishing fire damage, and in the end was not able to hold up in the late game, as Malekith was still very healthy, and the Slaanesh forces didn't have a lot of choices to deal with the big giant dragon. Slaanesh, despite their strong presence on the meta right now, still struggle against large armored flying single entities due to the lack of armor-piercing missiles, or just missiles in general really. Their only option are Marauder Horsemen, and that's about it. I can't believe I'm saying this, but despite saying Sigvald is OP, I believe that he is not the best choice in this matchup. Azazel would have been better due to his aerial presence, able to hunt down flying monsters or at least challenge them in the air. But then of course in this game there's no Azazel, so Dark Elves Malekith was able to totally dominate the skies, having 3,800 gold worth of damage. Really insane damage right there, with Soul Stealer breath attacks and also just great armor piercing weapon damage in general. For the rest of the army, the Sisters of Slaughters not quite able to earn back their value. Most of the value is recovered, but being light armored and against Slaanesh troops, not the greatest combo, as they take quite a bit of damage from the Marauders. And the Dread Spears, as well as the Bleak Swords, they just got mulched by all those Slaanesh forces. Dark Riders also overwhelmed by all those Hellstriders. As for the Slaanesh army, the Marauders, very cost effective against other light armored infantry, earned back most of their value. As for the Chaos Sorcerer, not a lot of value here, being sniped out by Malekith in early game. Hellstriders, very cost effective in general, but after that cost increase, it makes them harder to recover their value, but still pretty decent job in hunting down the Cheeserunners and also overwhelming the Dark Elf mobility. Just that they struggle against Cold One Dread Knight. Perhaps a Heartseeker unit would be a great pick here. Now for the Fiends of Slaanesh, they did surprisingly well, over 1,100 gold worth of damage value, basically punching through the Sisters of Slaughter with their magic attacks, and then went on a hunt against all these Cheeserunners, dragged down quite a few models of them, and also did some decent damage to some of the mobility of the Dark Elves. Just that in the end, after taking too much damage from the Cheeserunners, they just got charged by Malekith and got finished off. As for Prince Sigvald, not a lot of units to fight in here, as he was mostly just spending time dealing with Bleak Swords and whatnot, while Malekith flying around hunting down his army. He tried punching back against Seraphon, but unfortunately those armor mitigated a lot of his damage, and then a Soul Stealer combined with the charge bonus armor piercing on Malekith basically finished him off in the end game. allowing Le Norme to emerge victorious in this tournament battle. And that's basically it for today's battle. I hope viewers you enjoyed this replay, and if you do and want to see more, be sure to hit the like and subscribe to get notified every time I upload a new video. And if you want to showcase your own replays, feel free to drop by my Discord or send me an email with the replay file attached. I'll be sure to check them out. And yeah, that's it for today. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Tactical Lich, signing out.